Ooh. What's up, guys? Jitsoni Alliance here, bringing you with a brand new deck profile. This is my Archfiend deck profile, and I'd say it's a really good deck profile. Or I'd say this is a really good deck. It served me well, and it's done a lot in the past couple of formats, and since I've been testing and perfecting and tying up all the loose ends here. So let's just jump right into the deck. First off, I'm running 2 Archfiend Calvary. This card is your basic average 1900 beat stick that when it dies, you can special summon any Archfiend monster from your graveyard, except this card, of course. It can't attack, though. That's still, but it doesn't need to. I mean, you're gonna get back your big beaters, so it's really what if. It's really a whatever. You don't want to run this card in more than 2s, mostly because the card can be a bit cloggy. Even at 2, it's still a little cloggy. But overall, I like the card, and it's fantastic, and it works well with the deck. Next, we have 2 Archfiend Commanders. This card is really good because you can special summon this card essentially for free from your hand, and you can get your effects off with this card pretty effectively. The card is really good because it adds your searches and it adds your plays and it adds to your plays. Plus, you can make easy rank 6 with this, but I'm not running any rank 6s in this deck for this to even matter, though. So next, we're running 3 Archfiend Emperor, the First Lord of Horror. This card is fantastic because you can normal summon this card without a tribute, and then it dies, and its original attack is and defense is halved, and then it dies, which is fine. You don't really need that. You really don't need that to be a concern, mostly because this card is a Scrap Dragon. You banish an Archfiend an Archfiend card from your hand or a graveyard, then you pop a card. I mean, you really can't get any better than that. I mean, plus it sort of floats because it doesn't really matter if it gets banished or not, because this card's not really your key focus. Next is Archfiend Heiress. Archfiend Heiress is probably one of the best cards in this deck. It's basically your Sandgan and then some, because this card adds any Archfiend card to your hand. So it's pretty darn effective. Plus, it has the added benefit of being level 3, and this deck kind of runs off a little bit of a lot of level 3 love. Next card is Dark Arm Dragon. Dark Arm Dragon, you're gonna find yourself with three dark monsters in your graveyard pretty frequently, so it's nice to have this card here. Running 2 Gorz. Originally, I was running 2 Gorz and or 1 Gorz and 2 Trag, but I think Gorz is a much better card because unlike Gorz, Tragoedia is a little bit more situational. However, sometimes this card can be dead, but it really doesn't make much of a difference when you pass and then your opponent attacks you directly and then you special summon this card. It's alright. Next, we're running 1 Tour Bus. You really don't want to run more than 1 of these because they kind of get stuck in your hand. I mean, even at 1, it can kind of get stuck in your hand if you draw it in early game. But most of the time, it's a really good card. It's a really good way to recycle some of your stuff, and it's fantastic. Next, you're going to run on 3 Tour Guide of the Underworld. This card is one of the key main setups of your deck. And it's not your only setup, but if you have this card, you can pretty much guarantee that you're gonna have something. You're gonna have something to do next turn. So, I mean, the tour guide is just really effective because it gets this card out, and if you need it, you can get this card out. I mean, but you're really gonna want to get this card out mainly. Next is Tragoedia. As I originally said, this card is a little bit more situational than Gorz, and that's why I like running this card at 1 instead of 2. Plus, he's alright. I mean, he's not the best thing in the world, and he's definitely not as broken as Gorz can be. Next, we're running 1 Trance. Sure, this card doesn't combo off with Heiress all that great, but when you discard this card, because this card doesn't matter when it's sent to the graveyard, it's pretty fantastic. Next, we're running 1 Allure Darkness because drawing 2 and then banishing a dark monster, which will usually be this card, sometimes this card, but you know, drawing cards is pretty good in this deck, and the consistency isn't too bad in this deck. Next, we're running 3 Archfiend Palabrynth. This card makes the combos work. All Archfiend monsters gain 500 attack, which is irrelevant, but you can target one Archfiend card, one Archfiend monster you control, and banish one other Fiend type monster you also control, and then special summon from your hand, deck, or graveyard the same Archfiend that you targeted. So what you do is you have Emperor on the field, then you have another Fiend type, whether it be Tragoedia or whatever. You target Emperor, then you banish that other card, and then you banish it. And then you banish the other Fiend type, special summon another Emperor, and then make your plays with that. So next is Darkhold. This card kind of actually works better with your plays than Raigeki. Plus it destroys everything, so it's pretty good. Next we're running 3 Falling Down. If you have an Archfiend card on the field, take control of one of your opponent's monsters. It's your big guy. You don't need to run a big guy in this deck because this card is your big guy. I mean, this card plus this card is pretty devastating because this card is an Archfiend card. It's just fantastic. Next, we're running 3 Sanctuary. This card basically makes this card for free. If you have this card, and this card in your hand on the first turn, you go activate, normal summon, special summon, then special summon. Because not all Fiend tokens are considered Fiend types, and you can banish those for Archfiend Palabrynth, and it works. So next is Foolish Rail. This card can help get your effects off, so that's why it's pretty good. Pot of Duality, you kind of really don't special summon too often. I mean, less than most decks. Pot of Duality is just there for really good consistency. I've actually thought about putting this card to 3, but then I realized it might be a little too cloggy. Additionally, it might disrupt some of the other special summonings that I have later. Plus, I don't want to draw into a third one, because drawing into another one late game is kind of eh. It's kind of bleh. So, yeah. Running 3 Archfiend's Roar. This card actually kind of helps setting up plays a little bit easier. If this card's engraved, you can special summon this card. This card's engraved, definitely grab this card, especially if this card's also in your grave. So grab this card, then let it die, then this card can special summon. Then this card can special summon this card. So sometimes it's good to go for this card because you can get a free search off that too. So, and you're running Bottomless, Compulsory, Eradicator, and Solemn Warning. Sometimes this card can be a dead card. But it's always good to have. Next, we're going to talk about the Xyz of this deck. We're running 2 1-up Zenmaines. Zenmaines is pretty fantastic in the deck because because this card because it pops things and it's really good. Additionally, what people don't understand and what people sometimes don't get is this card can be really good with Heiress, because you summon Tour Guide, special Heiress, Exceed into his Zenmaines. Then your opponent tries to attack into the Zenmaines, you detach to save it. Heiress still goes off because the effect of detaching is not actually a cost, because the cost has already been paid for once your opponent attempts to destroy it. So, it's honestly really good. So, next year, we're going to be running 1 Black Shipicorn, because Black Shipicorn is really good. Very rarely, though, I admit, very rarely will you make rank 4s in this deck, and the ones that you do are very good. The ones that you should make should be really, really good. So, and the rank 3 that I've been going into a lot more than Zenmaines is Fortune Tune. I will only go into Zenmaines if I absolutely need to pop something. But this card says, no, you cannot target me with Compulse, you cannot target me with your other spells and traps, or effects, or monster effects for that matter. You have to destroy me by battle. It's plain and simple. You have to destroy me by battle. And additionally, this card is really good because it does the same thing that Zenmaines does. Its effect is going to be paid for, because when this card is destroyed, you can detach. Its effect is already being paid for when your opponent decides to destroy it. Sure, Dark Hole and Torrential and Raigeki sure can get around the defense of this card, but really you detach and then it's all good. Then once this card dies, you target 2 level 3s in your graveyard, and this card then send them back to the deck and extra deck. So this card recycles itself and it pays itself in full. So, yeah. So, number 101, I shouldn't really have to explain why this card is good. Mega Equip Engineer, I will only go into this card if I need to get over something like really badly. And that's very rarely, because this card can get over a lot of things. But if this card is, if I can't get over it with my Calvary or something, I will definitely make this. So, yeah. Levier, you're going to be mentioning a lot of things in this deck, so it's good to have that extra card to work with. So it's good to have. It's good to get that card, get some of those cards back. So the Bubble Chain, it's a foolish burial. That's essentially what you're going to be using it for. You're really not going to be using the second effect too often. So, and one Heretic Sun God. You're running you're running level 8s, so why not run a rank 8? It's pretty good, and this card is amazing. So next is Ghostrick Alucard. This card is pretty amazing because it gets rid of annoyances in the back row. This deck, as you can see, doesn't run MST because you don't really need MSTs if you're going for the game. Mirror Force definitely hurts this deck, but it really doesn't make a difference. It barely makes a difference a lot of the time. Exciton Knight, I shouldn't explain why this card is good. Dante, again, I shouldn't really have to explain why this card is good. The only problem with this card, and when making this card, is that Heiress does not go off if it's milled. So well, actually, no, I think Heiress would, because it's not really a cost anymore, because it's a condition, I think. I'm not even sure. I'll have to look it up a little bit more. I'm not too familiar with that, but regardless, I like the card because you can get over some pretty good stuff with it. Sometimes you can get over something that the Calvary cannot. Emerald is pretty good when you have things that you want back from your graveyard into your deck. A lot of the times you'll just be recycling these cards, and probably these cards and some of your spells and traps. But yeah. And Castile Aberration, I have to explain why this card's good. So yeah, I'm not going to explain the side deck because the side deck is what you wish, is what you make of it. So yeah. Anyway, I think that this should wrap it up nicely. Chitoni Alliance signing out, and thanks for watching.